Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai. Ganga Mai ki Jai. Mula Devi ki Jai. Tulsi Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. The Lord will speak the power of spiritual master by the only way in which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My own grace to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, Lord and master of the devotees.
The Vedic scriptures use this character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor
and Lord and master of the devotees.
Oh,
Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
explain maybe technical. I can explain that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good to see you. Good to be back.
Do you need a microphone?
Not just yet.
It's our pleasure.
Good to celebrate
Love you.
a wonderful Krishna Janmashtami together. I was asked to give class this morning, which I prepared I'd like to show a short video first. So I built the class around the video. So we're having a few technical difficulties, but I hope they can be resolved shortly. So maybe we can channel japa and see what happens. And then once it's set up, then we'll proceed straight to the class. So that's the plan right now.
Sadhu, Haribo!
Ladu.
Sadhu likes love.
Yeah, this is good. I'm very sensitive. My body is very sensitive to altitudes. So let's chant a few rounds while everything's being resolved, hopefully. So, but today is August 17th, right? 2025. So for those of you who would be interested to know, Srila Prabhupada began his journey on the Jaladuta on August 13th, 1965, which means that Prabhupada is 4 days right now, 60 years ago, 4 days into the journey. His ship is in all likelihood sailing down the coast of India. His first stop was in Sri Lanka, Colombo. And the video I'm going to show you was commissioned. I was asked to do this for the 50th anniversary of Prabhupada's arriving in America 10 years ago. So it's 60 years, 60th anniversary. Prabhupada left King George's dockyard in Calcutta on August 13th. He arrived on September 19th in New York after stopping briefly in Boston. 37 or 39 day, I can't remember which, journey, transoceanic journey. So I wanted to play this because afterwards I'm going to talk about Srila Prabhupada's determination to please Lord Krishna and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati at any cost. This video is made based on as many original vintage images that I could find. At the time I didn't know that there was a book called Jaladuta. I based it on the diary of Prabhupada, and wherever possible I would try to illustrate what Prabhupada was saying in his diary pages. I found a picture of the Jaladuta in the British Maritime Registry that I don't think was ever published before. And you'll see by the pictures that I've tried to illustrate vividly on a day-by-day basis what Prabhupada was doing. It's kind of like you get to travel with Prabhupada on Jaladuta. So let's hope this all works.
Thank you, Dr. Schweig.
The 12th, I should say one other thing. This presentation was done in Faneuil Hall in Boston. Faneuil Hall is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, hall in the United States. It was where the founding fathers of the American Revolution met to prepare a revolution against the British. And it's a very classy hall. It was packed. Every Ambarish Prabhu was there, Radhanath Maharaj was there. It was all the glitterati of the Hare Krishna movement were there. And it lasted 26 minutes. They told me I had half an hour, so I came in. Jai Shri Shri Gauranitai, Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra.
On this day, exactly 50 years ago, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami disembarked at the port of New York City after completing a transoceanic journey of 38 days, during which the almost 70-year-old Swami had suffered 2 successive heart attacks at high speed and nearly died. Sindhi Steam Navigation Company, had been the temporary residence of a frail but determined passenger on his solitary journey to fulfill the great mission of his life. In keeping with the theme and mood of this most improbable journey, I shall refer to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada as Bhaktivedanta Swami during this presentation. I have used period photos wherever possible, with few exceptions. And when repeating the exact words written by Bhaktivedanta Swami in his diary, I will begin by saying quote and conclude by saying unquote. Let us now pick up the story of this most improbable journey where it began, in Vrindavan, India, a holy place where Lord Sri Krishna appeared on earth some 5,000 years ago. 1959, quote, I was sitting alone in Vrindavan, writing. My godbrother insisted to me, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, you must do it. Without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So he insisted. Not he insisted, practically my spiritual master insisted. He wanted me to become a preacher, so he forced me through this godbrother. So, unwillingly, I accepted, unquote. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami in the early in Vrindavan. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami occupied these quarters in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, India. There he prayed, studied, and translated the Srimad Bhagavatam, the transcendental text known as the mature fruit of all Vedic wisdom. In fact, some Vrindavan residents began to refer to Bhaktivedanta Swami as the Swami who always writes. Bhaktivedanta Swami occupied 2 rooms connected by a veranda. This room served as his sitting room and bedroom. In this room, which served as his kitchen, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami would take prasadam. This is the main entrance to the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, where Bhaktivedanta Swami's quarters were situated. Early 1960s, Sri Radha Damodar are the temple deities whom Bhaktivedanta Swami would worship daily. In his kitchen, Bhaktivedanta Swami would take prasadam, and while looking out the window, contemplate the sacred place of burial of Srila Rupa Goswami. Bhaktivedanta Swami in his quarters at Radha Damodar Temple. Early 1965. Desirous of fulfilling the order of his spiritual master to preach Krishna consciousness in the West in English, Bhaktivedanta Swami sought the help of Mrs. Sumati Morarji, the owner of the Sindhi Steam Navigation Company. Mrs. Morarji initially refused to give Bhaktivedanta Swami a passage to America on one of her ships, saying that the Americans were an uncooperative people, that New York was too cold, and that the Swami was too old and would surely die there far away from his beloved Vrindavan. Nonetheless, Bhaktivedanta Swami was undeterred. Finally, Mrs. Morarji relented and promised to give Bhaktivedanta Swami a complimentary passage on one of her merchant ships sailing from Calcutta. Spring 1965. For his impending trip to America, Bhaktivedanta Swami convinced the Sindhi Steam Navigation Company to finance the printing of a presentational leaflet titled Srimad Bhagavatam, India's Message of Peace and Goodwill. Friday, July 30th, 1965, Bhaktivedanta Swami receives his passport for travel to America. Even a casual viewer is able to discern the intense determination etched into his lotus face. Sunday, August 1st, 1965. Quote, to start from Calcutta via Nagpur at 19 hours in the evening. Biday, ticket dated July 24, 1965. Luggage booked. Paid 12 rupees, 20 paisa. Unquote. This is what Calcutta looked like in the early and middle 20th century. That is the Hooghly River in the background, a tributary of the Holy Ganges. Tuesday, August 3rd, 1965. Upon arrival at the Howrah train station 2 days later, Bhaktivedanta Swami would have traversed the Howrah Bridge across the Hooghly on his way to the Bungar Dharmashala, an Indian religious rest house for pilgrims located at 65A Pachuryagata Street, indicated by the green marker. He would stay there for 3 nights before going to Sri Mayapur. Wednesday, August 4th, 1965. Bhaktivedanta Swami received his complimentary ticket for passage aboard the MV Jaladuta from Calcutta to New York. This is what it looked like. Friday, August 6th, 1965. Quote, morning to start for Mayapur and return back in the evening. Bhaktivedanta Swami paid a last visit to the Samadhi tomb of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to seek the blessings of his spiritual master before embarking on the great trip ahead. Tuesday, August 10th, 1965. Quote, to start for USA by MV Jaladuta from Calcutta Port, King George's Docker. Unquote. Thursday, August 12th, 1965. The Lord's Message Goes to America was the title of a brief newspaper article published in the Dainik Basmati, a Bengali language newspaper, announcing the departure of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami to the West. Quote from the newspaper. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Viti Viti Ache Jata Nagara Dignam, Sarvatra Patra Hoibe Marina. That prophecy is going to be fulfilled now. The article continued, quote, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami, a resident of Vrindavan, has translated into English in 60 volumes with word-for-word meaning and purports. Before this great work could be appreciated by his countrymen, people from far-off America have expressed their admiration for his supernormal achievement and have invited him so that they may meet him in person and acquaint themselves with his work. Hence, he is departing from Calcutta for New York this 12th day of August. Of course, this was newspaper talk. At the time, there were no 60 volumes, no admirers, no invitation, and no interested persons awaiting his arrival. The Lord Krishna would arrange for them to come in the future. Friday, August 13th, 1965. The luckiest day in history. Friday the 13th. Bhaktivedanta Swami leaves the Pilgrim Guest House on Pachuryagata Street, the green marker, taking a taxi through the Maidan to reach King George's Dock, red marker, where the MV Jaladuta lies moored. Friday, August 13th, 1965. Quote, today, 9 a.m., embarked on MV Jaladuta. Came with me Bhagwati, an official of Sindhi Steam Navigation Company, Mr. Sengupta, Mr. Ali, and Vrindavan, who assisted. Thanks to Lord Sri Krishna for his enlightening Srimati Sumati Maharji for all these arrangements. Unquote. Saturday, August 14, 1965. Quote, the ship started at about 11 o'clock in the morning majestically, but on reaching the Bay of Bengal, there was tilting of the ship and a little rolling also. The roughness increased gradually on the upper Bay of Bengal, and I felt seasickness. There was vomiting tendency and dizziness, and I felt uncomfortable the whole day and night. The sea was foamy all through. It appeared like a big plate of water extending to 40 square miles, but factually it was endless, so today. It is a vivid example of God's Maya because it appears like something, but factually it is something else. Unquote. This is the itinerary of Bhaktivedanta Swami along the eastern coast of India, down to Colombo in Ceylon, today known as Sri Lanka. Tuesday, August 17, 1965. Quote, "The captain informed me that by next 6 hours we shall reach Colombo port. Today I was better." Unquote. Wednesday, August 18, 1965. Quote, "I went to see the Colombo city. Then a car was arranged for me to go around the city. I saw the Parliament House and the Town Hall and passed through very nice clean roads and bazaars." Friday, August 20th, 1965. Steaming from Colombo, Ceylon, point A, through the Laccadive Sea to Cochin, point B. Quote, "Today the captain arranged for a meeting on board the MV Jaladuta on account of Janmashtami Day, and I spoke for an hour on the philosophy and teachings of Lord Sri Krishna. All the officers attended the meeting, and there was distribution of prasadam. The matter was radiographed to Sumati Mararji in Bombay." Unquote. Saturday, August 21st, 1965. Still on this itinerary to Cochin. Today is Bhaktivedanta Swami's 69th birthday. He makes no entry of it in his diary. Evidently, he did not consider it worth mentioning. Sunday, August 22nd, 1965. Quote, "At about 10 a.m., we are now in the dockyard of Cochin." Unquote. Sunday, August 22nd, 1965. Quote, "Two big islands known as Cochin and Ernakulam are joined by an iron overbridge. The iron overbridge was constructed by the Britishers very nicely." Unquote. Sunday, August 22nd, 1965. Quote, "There was a nice park on the bank of the Gulf, and it is named Subhash Bose Park. It is good that Subhash Babu is popular in this part of the country." Unquote. Sunday, August 22nd, 1965. Quote, "I saw my books from Bombay arrived in 5 cases, and the agents loaded them on the ship at 4 p.m. Unquote. As the Jaladuta was steaming across the Indian Ocean towards the Red Sea, Bhaktivedanta Swami encountered great difficulty. In the previous days, he had noted in his diary, quote, "Rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting." Unquote. But on August 25th, he wrote, quote, "Beginning from today, down." Unquote. His symptoms persisted, but it was more than seasickness. Pains in his chest made him think he would die at any moment. In 2 days, Bhaktivedanta Swami suffered 2 heart attacks. As Srila Goswami wrote in Prabhupada Lilamrita, quote, "One night, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami had a dream. Lord Krishna and his incarnations were rowing a boat, and Krishna told Prabhupada that he should not fear, but should come along. Prabhupada felt assured of Lord Krishna's protection, and the violent attacks did not recur." Tuesday, August 31st, 1965. Quote, "Passed over a great crisis in the struggle for life and death. A separate statement has to be written on this crisis." Unquote. To the best of our knowledge, no such statement was made. Evidently, Bhaktivedanta Swami saw no need to do so. This is a satellite view of the Red Sea, Gulf of Suez. The Jaladuta went into the Red Sea, into the Gulf of Suez, and approached the Suez Canal. Wednesday, September 1st, 1965, Bhaktivedanta Swami notes the arrival of the Jaladuta at Port Suez, an Egyptian city at the southern point of the Suez Canal. This is a map of the Suez Canal. At the southernmost point, there is the city of Suez. At the northernmost point on the Mediterranean, Port Said. This is a picture, a period picture of the Suez Canal in the 60s. It was normal for 2 ships to pass in opposite directions. Thursday, September 2nd, 1965. This is the north end of the Suez Canal, approaching Port Said. Thursday, September 2nd, 1965. Bhaktivinoda Swami notes the arrival of the Jaladuta at Port Said, an Egyptian city at the northern end of the Suez Canal. Friday, September 3rd, 1965. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami commented about Port Said, Egypt's oldest port city. Quote, "The Port Said city is nice. It has long, narrow, neat, and clean roads with lofty buildings. The city is not at all congested. While passing the rear point of Suez towards Mediterranean Sea, the city is clearly seen. Although in the desert, the city has all varieties of vegetables available." Unquote. Friday, September 3rd, 1965. The Jaladuta sails past the Grand Mosque of Port Faoud on the eastern side of the Suez Canal, opposite Port Said. If Bhaktivinoda Swami had been on board, that's exactly what he would have seen. On deck, excuse me. That's exactly what he would have seen. Saturday, September 4, 1965. Upon leaving the Suez Canal, the Jaladuta heads into the waters of the Mediterranean Sea towards Sicily and Malta. Tuesday, September 7, 1965. Quote, "Today, Bharahat Vadashi observed the best atmospheric condition on the Mediterranean Sea. All along, we have seen the Algerian coast." Unquote. Tuesday, September 7th, 1965. The journey continues as Bhaktivinoda Swami reaches the Strait of Gibraltar, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. Wednesday, September 8, 1965, quote, "We passed over Gibraltar Port. The other side is Spanish Morocco. There is regular ferry steamer service. The strait is wide, about 7 miles across." Wednesday, September 8, 1965, quote, "We are in the Atlantic," unquote. Friday, September 10th, 1965, quote, "Today the ship is plying very smoothly. I feel today better, but I am feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan and my lords, Sri Govinda, Gopinath, Radha Damodar. The only solace is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which I am tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. I have left Bharata Bhumi just to execute the order of Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but I have taken up the risk just to carry out the order of His divine grace. I depend fully on their mercy so far away from Vrindavan." Unquote. Saturday, September 11th, 1965, quote, "Today the ship ran on very smoothly, the sky was clear, and there was sunshine all the day." Unquote. Saturday, September 11th, 1965. Here is a photo of the MV Jaladuta, quote, "running very smoothly," unquote, which I was fortunate to find in an online database of historic merchant ships. To the best of my knowledge, this image has never before been shown in public. Monday, September 13, 1965. Quote, "I emphatically say to you, O brothers, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Gauranga, the son of Mother Sachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotion to Krishna at different places throughout the world." Tuesday, September 14, 1965, quote, "I was talking in the captain's room with the chief engineer, Mr. Travers, who told me that he had never had such experience of calm and quietness in the Atlantic. There was always typhoon, cyclone, fog, etc., at least for days in every trip in the past. I said, It is Lord Krishna's grace. If such things as usual in the Atlantic would have taken place, I would have died. Unquote. Friday, September 17, 1965. After a 35-day journey from Calcutta, the Jaladuta reached America at Boston, docking at Commonwealth Pier at 5:30 in the morning. Friday, September 17, 1965. It was at Boston's Commonwealth Pier that Bhaktivedanta Swami composed another poem in Bengali titled Markini Bhagavad Dharma. Some of the verses he wrote on board the ship that day are as follows. Quote, "My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here, otherwise why would you bring me to this terrible place? But I know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make a success or failure, as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated 18th September, 1965. Sunday, September 19, 1965. Quote, today is the 30th day of our journey, and we reached New York Port at 12:30 p.m., 3 hours later than the scheduled time. Unquote. Sunday, September 19, 1965. The Jaladuta finally sailed into New York Harbor and docked at a pier in Brooklyn. The elderly and frail Swami who disembarked that day, exactly 50 years ago today, had traversed 2 oceans, sailed past many countries, and suffered 2 heart attacks, carrying with him only 40 rupees and an Indian steel trunk full of Bhagavatams. He had fulfilled the order of his Guru Maharaj and was now poised to start a Krishna conscious revolution in the West, which would spread all over the world. Total distance, 2,000 kilometers by land and 20,000 kilometers by water. The end. Thank you for your attention.
Who has a father or a grandfather like that? The enormity of what Srila Prabhupada did is scarcely conceivable. Think of whatever difficulties each of us may have in keeping faith with the holy name, or conducting the mission that was given to us too, just like Prabhupada got a mission from his spiritual master. But Prabhupada was undeterred. Prabhupada sometimes when he was in New York and things were not going well, he would go down to the steamship company office and check to see for departures from New York to Calcutta. But he never actually took that seriously. You know, I've been traveling around Switzerland trying to piece together our little portion of the history of this yatra, because I do believe that knowing your history makes you aware of the trajectory of where you're headed. Sometimes the history is not as pretty as it could have been, but that doesn't matter, because it is what it is. Prabhupada's story is so compelling, because whatever came at Prabhupada, he faced it, and he would not turn away, he would not get discouraged. So by understanding the obstacles that face Prabhupada, we can get perspective on whatever obstacles may face us. And in comparison to Prabhupada's obstacles, he was the greatest devotee. He had the greatest obstacles. We're very fortunate. We're not such great devotees, but we also don't get such great obstacles. Prabhupada once said that so much work was left undone in my life. That is the mercy of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati to my disciples, so that they could have something to do, and granddisciples. Actually, over the years, I've come to the realization that it is such an honor, a rare honor and privilege to serve Prabhupada's mission, that the generation makes no difference. Sometimes people say, oh, you're so fortunate, you were a direct disciple. You know, I've never really understood why they put the word direct in there. You know, direct disciple. Disciple is always direct, right? If you're a disciple of your spiritual master, you're a direct disciple. But also, you are all directly connected to Srila Prabhupada if you want to be. I have so many God brothers and God sisters. Some have excelled to enormous heights that could hardly be predicted. Others didn't do quite that well. Some even left. Some had lots of association with Prabhupada, but that didn't prevent them from becoming disheartened and giving up active devotional service, or seeing that ISKCON didn't quite live up to their expectations, which I freely concede that happens in many individual cases that I could experience as I traveled around Switzerland and talked to old devotees, a number of whom said, just call me by my karma name, please. You know. But neha vikramanashosti pratyavayana vidyate swapamokhyasya dharmasya kayate mahato vaya. On this path, there is no loss or diminution, and a little bit of progress will save one from the greatest fear. So, everyone has that opportunity to serve Prabhupada, who is our Rock of Gibraltar, immovable, undeterred, always ready to push on the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya. In every town and village. That is Mahaprabhu's prediction. The only question is, will each of us be part of the process of the fulfillment of that prediction, because it will be done with or without us. Sometimes we may feel how important or indispensable we are, or everything's depending on me, but that simply is not so. There's a saying that the cemeteries are filled with indispensable people, right? But life goes on. And Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj, as you know. He was not a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya. He didn't spend his time commiserating about you're so lucky, I'm not so lucky, or whatever. Even if you feel that you kind of, wouldn't it have been grand to have met Prabhupada? Of course. But Prabhupada was not joking when he said that, you know, you can know me through my books. Who has written such an extensive body of literature about Krishna and explained the philosophy? I was talking to one lady yesterday upstairs. I was doing like one-on-one therapy. Bhakti Lavya, he put up a book stand right in front of the room that I was in. I said, Prabhu, you barricaded me in here. How will I ever preach? You know? He said, don't worry, I'll bring people in. And he did. And there was like a steady flow of people. And it's very interesting, you know, why anybody comes to the temple on Janmashtami, and what their particular problems are. One lady broke down and started crying. My mother has died, and my husband is alienated from me. He doesn't appreciate the depths of my pain. I told her, everybody's mother has died or will die. Every mother will die or has died. And I'm terribly sorry for your loss. But the reason we are overwhelmed in this world by our emotions or by ignorance is that we just don't understand Bhagavad Gita. So, what are you going to do? How much longer can you keep crying and not reading the Bhagavad Gita? If you're going to keep crying, why not start reading the Bhagavad Gita? It starts with a crybaby. You know what a crybaby is? It's like a baby who's always crying. Sometimes you can call a grown-up. Don't be, you know, or you, like a grown-up kid, don't be a crybaby. No, Arjuna was crying. That's how it started. I shall not fight. They don't know, but why should I do like they do when I know? And I remember when I became a devotee, I joined in a small suburban temple in Paris in 1971. I read that first chapter and I thought, wow, this is a very profound teaching. You know, I thought the teaching was Arjuna's lamentation, you know, the material world, Varna Shankara, I cannot participate. They may be ambitious to take over the kingdom, but I would rather go into the forest and give it all up than to engage in sinful activity. I said, wow, this is very advanced knowledge, you know. So then when chapter 2 opens and the Supreme Lord says, while speaking wise words, you are lamenting for that which is not worthy of grief. I was like, oops, that was not the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Now teaching the Bhagavad Gita begins, you know. So we all have something to cry about. We all have something to regret. We all have pains, and we all have challenges, sometimes seemingly unsurmountable. But the Bhagavad Gita is the lighthouse that lights the way through the dark seas, the ocean of ignorance. Because armed with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, you can overcome anything. Look at Prabhupada, anything. 2 heart attacks, alone, in the middle of the ocean. It's his birthday. He doesn't even bother mentioning it. Speaking of birthdays, by the way, today is the birthday of Bhakti-Lavya. Today his body is 62 years old. Devotees, children and grandchildren of Prabhupada, let's say you were the son or daughter, or grandson or granddaughter of an emperor or a king or a multi-millionaire, the most powerful CEO in the world, the richest man in the world or something, the most famous person in the world. That there's a legacy there. Don't be a jerk, don't be sloppy, don't be negligent. Live up to some kind of a standard. Sometimes when we're preaching on Sankirtan, someone will say, my great-grandfather, he was this, his father was that, my father was this, and I have something to live up for. That's why I'm running the company. Well, this is Prabhupada's company. And just like in the material world, sometimes the ancestor does amazing heavy lifting and gives something valuable, and then, the next generation doesn't take it so seriously, and then the next one spends it all, and then what's left? It's like a wreck of what it originally was. So that analogy, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, the material world is a dictionary for the spiritual world. So we have a mission to keep Prabhupada's dream alive, right? Prabhupada is not physically here. We are still physically here. For some of us, not that much longer, but for one who has taken birth, you all know the rest of that sentence, right? So let's try to leave a mark. Let's try to make the life that we live in this body memorable. Memorable. Lord, in Ishopanishad, the second to last verse, Vayor anilam amritam atidam basmatam sariram om krato smara kritam smara krato smara kritam smara. The key portion being, O Lord, you are the supreme beneficiary of all my sacrifices. Please remember what I have done for you. It took me years to kind of come to some understanding of what was going on in that verse. Perhaps I haven't fully understood. Surely I have not fully understood. But I made a little progress on it. My first doubt was, well, why would, this is Shastra. There's a prayer to Krishna in Shastra, and it's the mood of the devotee. Please remember what I've done for you. Well, really? What does he want? Credit? This is the search for credit. We're quite familiar with the search for credit, as most of us are. And how could Krishna forget? How could the supreme beneficiary of all our sacrifices forget? Is that verse familiar to all of you, most of you? What do you say? What's going on in that verse, do you think? If I argued as I just did, for didactic purposes, not because I believe that someone's looking for credit and he's not sure that God knows what he did. And someone said that to you. Well, what would you say back? What would you say?
I would say, well, we should never take things for granted, even though we might be attached to the result, but still we shouldn't be, hey, well, Krishna knows what I have done, and I've done so much. Think like that.
Well, Krishna knows what you've done. Why the apprehension? Why the anguish of considering he might not know? Why do you have to remind? You have to remind Krishna?
In a sense, yes. You have to remind. You shouldn't take it for granted that Krishna remembers you. At least from your side, that's how.
I see. You know, in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada writes, this is a prayer that can be said at the moment of death. He writes that in the purport. I think that's a satisfactory answer, for whatever that's worth. I came to the conclusion that a devotee, a true devotee, a very sincere devotee, doesn't really think that he or she's done anything much, and that it's not really worth remembering because it's so insignificant. And in some type of spiritual anxiety, in the hope that something that I might have done meant something, the devotee prays, who else should the devotee pray to but Krishna, to remember something, however small or insignificant, that one has done. So it's really a prayer, I think, for mercy, for Krishna, not to forget the devotee, because the devotee understands that everything he's done is pretty much forgettable, but not because it is, because that's the heart of a devotee. So I'm wrapping up now. That's how I look at the history of ISKCON, not just in Switzerland, but everywhere. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard said that we live life looking forward, but we understand it looking backward, right? To make sense of a life, or of lives. And Isaac Newton, you may remember, he's the fellow who sat under a tree, reportedly, and an apple fell on his head, and he discovered the law of gravity. You know, that's how the story goes. Anyway, he said that if I have been able to see farther than others, it is because I have stood on the shoulders of giants. So if you want to understand where you are situated and where you are going, you have to know what was accomplished by those who came before you. For example, everyone remembers that somebody took the time and trouble to preach to you, to explain Bhagavad Gita, to talk to you about Prabhupada and Krishna. That person is a giant in your life because you have a debt to that person. That person may have gone on to excel or not, but you are where you are because you met that giant. He had a giant message, or she had a giant message for you, and you received it and valued it. Sometimes people say to me, why the fascination with the past? Well, if you want to know where you're going, it helps to know where you came from. I may be in an old body. I don't want to live in the past. There's no going back to the past. You know that Zen thing where you want to go back to the same spot in the river. But that spot does not exist anymore because the river is like a metaphor for the passage of the current of time. So in the course of time, that spot has been eroded, new nutrients and elements have entered into the water, it's been reshaped, you cannot go back. But if you understand where you came from, then you understand you're part of a grand scheme, a great chain going forward. And my goal in attempting to write what I do not call my memoir, because I would not be willing to write my memoir. It is a memoir of us. A memoir of us. And since I kind of concluded no one else was going to do it, and it should be done, and since I can remember back to 1971, for a while longer, I hope. So I'm writing from 1971 on till 1986, which is when I left Switzerland. And I'd like to, mention as many devotees as possible who did something grandiose and to whom we must feel some gratitude if we even know who they were. Sometimes I'll say, well, I'm going to see such and such Prabhu today. And I see like a blank expression on the face of the devotee I'm talking to. Who? Who? So it's good to know who's who and who did what, and then feel that you're a part of that. You perpetuated that. There's a lot riding on it. So that's about all I needed to say, I think. I don't know how long I've spoken, probably too long, but are there any questions or comments? If not, we can conclude. Thank you for your attention.